All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into your notes and we're going to practice what this whole chapter was about. You have a foldable that's in here that says I can write linear equations. Okay, so this will clean up the entire chapter of what we've been doing. Number one, I can write a linear equation given the slope and a y-intercept. Write an equation of a line given the slope and the intercept. There it is. If I'm given a slope and an intercept, then I would use y equals mx plus b, the slope and the intercept. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put it into standard form. Y equals 1/3 x minus 5. We're going to put this into standard form. This is slope-intercept form, and we want to put it into standard form. Tell me some things that you're thinking right now about this one. Like, what should a move be? What's good? What's bad about this equation? Standard form is ax plus by equals c. So compare the equation to the one that we have. What's good about it? What's bad about it? Anything that you can make a connection to the formula and the equation that we have. X and Y are there. What about the position that they're in? Are they in a good position? Elizabeth, what's wrong with the position of the X and the Y? They're not on the same side. So that's the first thing you need to notice. Now the next thing is about the X term. We need to be remembering about this X term and what it can be and what it can't be. It can't be a negative. So I'm looking at the X term right now. Is it a negative? Is the X term a negative? No, so it's good where it is then. The X has to stay because if I shift the X to the left, it becomes negative. All right, so that means you got to put Y over near the X and you got to put the -5 on the other side. So I have 1/3 X. That's good where it is because it's positive. Hunter, if it's Y on the left-hand side, what will it be when I shift it to the right-hand side? It's going to be a -Y. And then Elizabeth, if -5 is on the right, what's it going to be on the left? +5. So we're almost there. Casey, what's still wrong with it? The 1/3. You can't have fractions. So the A value in front of X can't be negative and it can't be a fraction. So what do we call it that I want to do right now? When I go like this and I multiply by something, that's called clearing fractions. We want to clear them. So what would I have to multiply by? What's the common denominator here? 3. There's only one denominator, right? But if I had two fractions and it was 1/3 and 1/6, I would multiply by that common denominator to get rid of both of them. So here I'm just going to multiply by 3. How many times am I going to multiply by 3? How many times am I going to use the distributive property? 3 times. So 3 times 5 is 15 equals, what happens when I multiply 3 times 1/3 X? Very good. So the 3's are going to cancel because this is in the numerator. If I make that a fraction, that's canceling numerator to denominator, and we're left with 1x. And then we have 3 times -y, which equals, very good, -3y. All right, now we're golden. Now we're good. My x is positive. It's not a fraction, and it don't matter about the sign of y. Y is not a fraction. That's it. That's standard form. I can write a linear equation given a graph. What 2 things would you like to take from this graph? The slope. So we'll have m equals, how do I find the slope from a graph? It has to be an exact point in the corner of a box. Notice that they've already got those 2 points for you. It has to be on the line and it has to be in the corner of the box so that it's exact. It's right in the corner of the box. So what's the saying that I'm going to use to find that slope? There you go. How much am I rising? 2. And then how much am I running? 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going in the negative direction, so that would be -5. So my slope is rise 2, run -5. What else do I need to have? I need to have a point. And which point are we going to use here? Yeah. So what is this point right here called? You're right. We need a point because if I have a point, yes, and that's known as B, the y-intercept. So whether you call it 0, -1, or you call it B, that's a good point to use. I'm going to call it B because it is the y-intercept. I'm going to put that next to it, y-intercept. And B is -1. And I just want to say that I could have said that, I'll put it down here. I could have said I'm going to use a slope of 2 over -5, and I'm going to use the point 0, -1, and I would just use the point slope formula, right? It's the same point, but I want it to be like number 1. Number 1, when they gave us the slope and the y-intercept, what did we do? We just went and wrote the equation. I didn't have to use point slope. I could just put in my slope and my y-intercept. But either way, I mean, we're quizzing and testing, and you're thinking about lines and geometry next year. Okay, whatever works. That's what you use. It's what your mind uses. Everybody's not the same. So I'm just going to go right to it. Y equals -2/5. Notice I just kind of pulled that negative out front instead of keeping it in my denominator. And then -1 for the y-intercept. A point and slope. What am I going to use when they give me a point and a slope? Point slope. That's right. So point slope would be y minus y1 equals my slope times x minus x1. Give me a point, they give me a slope. I'm going to use point slope. Remember that it's x1 and y1. That's the coordinate that you're plugging in. Just like when you have slope formula, you have x1, y1, x2, y2. So you have y minus, what's y1? 3 equals my slope, which is -3, times, what's x1? -1. So x minus -1, those double negatives. Some of you have gone right to calling it x plus 1. That means that you've used it enough that when you see those double negatives, you're not having to rewrite it like this and then write it again without those double negatives. Again, you're going to see this stuff again next year. And you'll see it again in Algebra 2. So you're just being introduced this year and getting more in depth. That's why it'd be good if you saved your notebooks. And you can always refer back to it at any time. All right, so I can leave it in point slope. Hunter, this is why we all love point slope so much. Because the directions don't say that I have to simplify to slope intercept. It doesn't say I have to simplify to standard form. That's why we just love this formula, because we're done with it right now. All right, so on the next one, given 2 points, what's the first thing that I need? I need to find my slope. So go ahead and find your slope. Make sure you always reduce your slope down as far as it can go. And which point are we going to use? It'd be good to use the one with the least amount of negatives. So I'm going to use 8, -13. So at this point, I have 2 options. I can use this formula, which this is the one that Hunter liked to use a lot. I can use this formula to write an equation of a line, or I can use the point slope formula. So every single time that you write a line, you have to have the slope, and then you have to use one of these formulas. Every time. That's the only way to get an equation of a line. Okay? This whole chapter was about writing equations of lines. You need the slope, and then you need to use one of these formulas. Go ahead and find the equation of your line.